جبريل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة، واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجته إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر، إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله المولانا العظيم.
Jazakallah. One more salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Dear brothers, if I can kindly ask, there's a little gap over here, if you can see. Zara thoda sa baraye karam, thoda sa aage aa jayega, please. If we can just come a little bit closer, and as we come up, one more salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Jazakallah. Bahut bahut shukriya. سوز السلام مرثیہ کے لیے درخواست کرتا ہوں جناب حسن جعفری صاحب سے کہ وہ آئیں اور سوز السلام مرثیہ پیش کریں بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. بر حبیب خدا ختم الانبیاء امام زمانہ بلند تر صلوات. جزاک اللہ.
صلی علی محمد. ایک مرتبہ اور درود بھیجیے بلند ترین. صلی علی کہتے ہیں جس کو شافعی محشر وہ فاطمہ. کہتے ہیں جس کو شافعی محشر وہ فاطمہ ہے جو حسن حسین کی مادر. وہ فاطمہ ہے جو حسن حسین کی مادر. وہ فاطمہ اور پہلو پہ آہا جس کے گرا در. وہ فاطمہ اور بیٹی کی جس کی چھن گئی چادر. وہ فاطمہ بیٹی کی جس کی چھن گئی چادر. وہ فاطمہ اور کیا کیا مصیبتیں سہی امت کے واسطے. آئیں گی روز حشر شفاعت کے واسطے. آئیں گی روز حشر شفاعت کے واسطے. کہتے ہیں جس کو شافعی. ایک درود بھیجیے محمد و آل محمد. منزل صبر و رضا کا راستہ زہرا سے ہے. منزل صبر و رضا کا راستہ زہرا سے ہے. اور جو بتایا ہے نبی نے سلسلہ زہرا سے ہے. منزل صبر و رضا کا راستہ زہرا سے ہے. اور ایک ہی مقصد ہمارا وہ ہے راہ کربلا. ایک ہی مقصد ہمارا وہ ہے راہ کربلا. اور کیونکہ تیرا اور میرا واسطہ زہرا سے ہے. کیونکہ تیرا اور میرا واسطہ زہرا سے ہے. راستہ زہرا سے اور کیوں پریشان مجلس و ماتم سے ہیں اہل جہاں، کیوں پریشان مجلس و ماتم سے ہیں اہل جہاں، اور یہ ہمارا جوش اور یہ ولولہ زہرا سے ہے، یہ ہمارا جوش اور یہ ولولہ زہرا سے ہے، منزل صبر و رضا کا راستہ زہرا سے ہے، اور اپنا جینا اپنا مرنا ہے بنا میں کربلا، اپنا جینا اپنا مرنا ہے بنا میں کربلا، اور زندگی اور موت کا یہ ذائقہ زہرا سے ہے، منزل صبر و رضا کا راستہ زہرا سے ہے، اور ایک آنسو سے ہی مل جائے گی نعمت خلد کی، ایک آنسو سے ہی مل جائے گی نعمت خلد کی، اشک چشم غم تمہارا رابطہ زہرا سے ہے، اشک چشم غم تمہارا رابطہ زہرا سے ہے، منزل صبر و رضا کا راستہ زہرا سے ہے، اور گھر جلایا در جلایا ہو گئے محسن شہید، گھر جلایا در جلایا ہو گئے محسن شہید، سوچتے اس گھر کی نسبت فاطمہ زہرا سے، سوچتے اس گھر کی نسبت فاطمہ زہرا سے ہے، منزل صبر و رضا کا راستہ، اور آخری شعر ہے، اور میں غم شبیر میں رہتا ہوں مصروف عذاب، میں غم شبیر میں رہتا ہوں مصروف عذاب، ذوالفقار جعفری یہ حوصلہ زہرا سے ہے، ذوالفقار جعفری یہ حوصلہ زہرا سے ہے، منزل صبر و رضا کا۔ درود بھیجیے محمد و آل محمد۔ فاتحہ. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. تھا یاد میں نبی کی جو زہرا کا غیر ہاں، تھا یاد میں نبی کی جو زہرا کا غیر. آنکھوں میں اٹھتے بیٹھتے آنسو تھے دل نڈ. حیدر شریک کے غم تھے اور اطفال خرد ان کے سوا کسی کو نہ تھا ان کا کچھ خیر. ان کے سوا کسی کو نہ تھا ان کا روتی تھیں سر پٹا کے مزار رسول پر. ارے ٹوٹی تھی ایک قیامت کبریٰ بطول. ٹوٹی تھی ایک قیامت کبریٰ بطول. نوحہ پڑھا جو یاد میں بابا کی صبح لائے علی کے پاس شکایت یہ خاص. روتی ہے رات دن جو بطول فلک. دن بھر کے کام رات کی نیندیں ہوئیں. دن بھر کے کام رات کی نیندیں کتنے ہی اس سے بڑھ کے بھی مغموم ہوتے. مرتے ہیں سب کے باپ کہیں یوں بھی روتے. مرتے ہیں سب کے باپ کہیں یوں بھی سن کر مدینے والوں کا یہ دل شکن پایا. تھے صابر و حلیم مگر رو دیے. جا کر حرام سرا میں سنائے جو یہ کن. ایک آہ بھر کے رہ گئیں بنت شہین. ایک آہ بھر کے رہ گئیں بنت شہین. اتنا کہا حضور کو ان کے بنا تھے. میرے ہی باپ تھے وہ کسی کے نبی نہ. میرے ہی باپ تھے وہ کسی کے نبی نہ تھے. جا کر یہ ان سے کہیے کہ زہرا ہے غم. اس گفتگو کے بعد یہ معمول ہو گئے. تا شام گھر میں رہنے لگیں بنت مصطفیٰ. تا شام گھر میں رہنے لگیں بنت مصطفیٰ. روئیں یہاں ضرور مگر گھونٹ کر گل. پڑھ کر عشاء بقیہ میں آئیں بسد بک. پڑھ کر عشاء بقیہ میں آئیں بسد. ماتم بھی ساری رات کیا اور بین بھی. ارے سب روئے بیٹیاں بھی حسن بھی حسین. سب روئے بیٹیاں بھی حسن بھی حسین. واپس گئیں جو گھر تو ہوئیں صاحب فرا ابھرے تصورات و خیالات دل خرا رحلت کروں گی میں تو جب اٹھے گی میری بچوں کے نانے نانے جگر ہوں گے پاش بچوں کے نانے نانے جگر ہوں گے پاش سب بیٹیاں بھی بیٹے بھی آنسو بہائیں گے بکھرائیں گی وہ بال تو یہ خاک اڑائیں بکھرائیں گی وہ بال تو یہ خاک اڑائیں گے بعد از دعا جو خط وصیت رقم کیا رک رک کے ہر مقام پہ بی نے کی بکا طے کر کے پھر مصلی پہ اس خط کو رکھ دیا یاسین پڑھ کے لیٹ گئیں اور کی یاسین پڑھ کے لیٹ گئیں اور کی فضا تڑپ کے روئی کے بی بی گزر گئی ارے بچوں کو پالنے بھی نہ پائیں کہ مر گئی بچوں کو پالنے بھی نہ پائیں کہ مر گئی سب گھر میں آ گئے یہ سنا جبکہ شور تڑپی زمین پہ زینب و کلثوم کر کے رو رو کے ماں کی لاش سے لپٹے حسن مسجد سے آئے بال بکھیرے شہے مسجد سے آئے بال بکھیرے شہے غل پڑ گیا کہ ہائے مدینہ اجڑ گیا احمد کے اہل بیت میں کوہرام مر گیا احمد کے اہل بیت میں کوہرام پڑ گیا تھا یاد میں نبی کی جو زہرا کا غیر حال
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. It is in these days and these nights in which we commemorate the martyrdom, the shahadat of none other than the Lady of Light, the daughter of Rasulullah, Bibi Fatimah al-Zahra, salamullahi alayha. Salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. The sponsors for tonight's program are the following families: Mr. Shahriyar and Mrs. Asima Heather, Dr. Fahim Alam and Dr. Farheen Fahim, Mr. Faisal and Mrs. Farwa Zaidi, Mr. Ejaz and Mrs. Paro Mirza, Mr. Tausif Upal and Dr. Hadika Butul, Mr. Sohail and Mrs. Hina Naqvi, Akil and Afshan Ahmad, as well as Mr. Tausif Bawa. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our a'mal in these holy nights of commemoration. We remember their marhumeen, your marhumeen, and the marhumeen of all mu'mineen and mu'minat, including the following marhumeen: Sayyid Akhtar Hussain Zaidi, son of Sayyid Hamid Hussain Zaidi, for the anniversary of his passing. This is the father of brother Faisal Zaidi, as well as Amir Ali Bhalu, who passed away today in Kenya. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless these marhum with the deepest ranks of paradise. Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alayhim ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim wa lad-dallin. In these holy nights, we also remember those who are in need of dua for their health, safety, and protection in all areas of the world. Our brothers and sisters in Palestine, in Pakistan, in Lebanon, in all areas of the world. We also remember the following community members for their health: Brother Sheikh Heather, as well as Aziz Rahim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them with a speedy recovery, inshallah. Please recite with me verse number 62 of Surah An-Naml together 5 times. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amman yujibul mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amman yujibul mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَّا تَذَكَّرُونَ صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Mu'mineen, just a few announcements before we proceed with tonight's majlis. In this Ayyam Fatimiyah, we continue our majlis tomorrow as well. We begin with Salat al-Isha at 7 p.m., just like tonight's program. And this is recited by Sheikh Azhar Nasser, like tonight. We look forward to your participation. Tomorrow night for the youth, there's going to be a Friday night youth hangout. So tomorrow night with Sheikh Azhar Nasser himself. This is going to be after the program. It's going to be at 9 o'clock. We recommend you take advantage of this session. It's a very unique session with the Sheikh. We look forward to seeing you then tomorrow. Inshallah, day after tomorrow, Saturday, Masjid-e-Ali is going to be hosting its annual fundraising dinner. This is going to start with Salatul Maghribain at about 4:50, followed by appetizers and the fundraiser. It's a wonderful program. We have great speakers. Our keynote is the Sheikh himself. We have the comedian Jeremy McClellan, who's going to be joining us as well. There is a raffle. The top prize for the raffle is a ziyarah trip to Iraq and Iran. Definitely take advantage, support this masjid with your du'as, and support this masjid financially. Tickets are still available for purchase. We look forward to seeing you day after tomorrow. On Sunday, Jafriya School is going to be hosting its annual Quran Fair. The theme for the Quran Fair is Discover the Imam's Traits, Clues from the Quran. So there's going to be exhibits. This is designed by our 3rd through 10th grade students. Each table, they're featuring clues, and you're going to have to guess which Imam is featured in the Quran. And of course, if you guess all of them, you get a prize. We look forward. This is open to the community at large. So not only the parents when you're picking up your kids from Sunday school, but the community at large. Join us this Sunday for a wonderful program. It's going to be here in this masjid building. Also on Sunday, Muslims for Peace is organizing the Prophet Muhammad Conference, A Voice for the Oppressed. There's going to be a variety of speakers, including Al-Hajj Hasnain Rajab Ali, as well as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, among others. We look forward to your participation. There's a flyer outside. Finally, Zahra Trust is working with us for a clothing and coat and hygiene drive. The drive goes on until December 18th. You can speak with Brother Imtiaz Kazmi. He'll be collecting during our regularly scheduled programs. Mu'mineen, tonight we have the honor of hosting our very special guest scholar, who is not really just a guest. He's a friend of our community. He's a part of our community. He's recited here before, and we look forward to many a lecture from him in the near future, inshallah. For those of you who are not familiar, Sheikh Azhar Nasser was born and raised in Michigan. He has a degree in cultural anthropology from the University of Michigan. After completing his academic studies, he pursued his religious studies of the Hawza of Najaf under the offices of Grand Ayatollah Sistani, as well as Grand Ayatollah Hakim. In addition to his extensive study of classical religious texts, he has also taught introductory courses to Western students in the seminary. Sheikh Azhar has a deep passion for the study of the Holy Quran, which is evident in his lectures and his discussions. Aside from the Sheikh's incredible social media presence, we all know him affectionately as the Twitter Sheikh. He's an author of a variety of books, including The Grand Tour, Quranic Descriptions of Paradise, published in 2018, Spiritual Prescriptions, published in 2019, and more recently, this past year, The Adornment of the Righteous, a commentary on Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq. These are wonderful resources. I encourage you to go on Amazon and give this a purchase. Sheikh Azhar is also the co-founder of the Tasneem Institute, which it's a one-of-a-kind platform for hands-on Islamic education on demand. If you're really not familiar, you're missing out. Log in tonight to Tasneem Institute to see what they offer. It's an incredible, incredible site with phenomenal lectures. Mu'mineen, truly we are among esteemed company. I'd like to welcome our dear respected Sheikh Azhar Nasser to recite tonight's Majlis of Bibi Fatimah al-Zahra. Please welcome him with a nice and loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. صلى الله عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك وعلى ابنتك المظلومة المغصوبة المرضية الرضية المرضية الحوراء الإنسية الصديقة الشهيدة فاطمة الزهراء صلوات الله عليها. اللهم صل على محمد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتولوا قوما غضب الله عليهم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is difficult to speak about the martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatimah alayhi salam without first shedding light on the tragic events that led to her martyrdom. When we gather and when we commemorate the Shahada of Sayyidah Fatimah alayhi salam, naturally we have to revisit some very painful parts of our early history. And oftentimes the argument is made, why should we constantly bring up the past? Especially historical events that could fuel sectarian tensions. Why don't we just move on? Why don't we leave the past in the past? Why not promote a message of unity, a message that will bring about harmony in a community? Why is it that the followers of Ahlul Bayt insist on bringing up issues that are naturally going to be charged in terms of their sectarian rhetoric? Now, what's interesting is that when you look at the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran calls upon the believers to reflect on history. In fact, when you look at the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you find that when Rasulullah was in Medina, and we know that in the city of Medina there was a Jewish diaspora, and the Prophet ﷺ, he had every reason to make peace and to not bring up any issues that could create tensions between the Muslims and the Jews. Yet you find many verses in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings up the crimes and the atrocities of Bani Israel. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for instance, He says in Surah Al-Baqarah, and this is a Madani surah, and there is a Jewish community there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet, He reveals to the Prophet to address the Jewish members of his community. In Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 92, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ مُوسَى بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. Musa came to you with clear signs, with clear evidences, with miracles that confirm that he is indeed a messenger of God. ثُمَّ اتَّخَذْتُمُ الْعِجْلَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ وَأَنْتُمْ ظَالِمُونَ. But you took the golden calf as an idol, as an object of worship, after he revealed to you the path of guidance, and you were unjust to yourselves. Now in Medina, none of the Jews in Medina were worshiping a golden calf. So one might ask, why is the Prophet ﷺ bringing up the crimes of their ancestors? The Jews could easily say that, listen, we're not worshiping a golden calf. Why are you using this language with us? Why are you bringing up the past? We're not worshiping a golden calf. Yet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Medina, where there is a Jewish diaspora, these ayat are being revealed to force the Jews to confront the ugly realities of their own history. Why? Yes, they were not worshiping a golden calf in Medina, but the problem is that is not enough. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from the believers is to disassociate and condemn the actions of their ancestors. It's not enough to say, well, I don't worship a golden calf. A believer has to take a stand against falsehood, even if it means that you disassociate from your own ancestors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want us to censor history. Because if you censor past crimes, you are more likely to censor present day crimes. If you do not disassociate from the unjust practices of your predecessors, you will make excuses and justifications for the crimes of your contemporaries. And furthermore, the Prophet ﷺ in a famous hadith, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And this hadith is mentioned in both Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, where the hadith is from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, one of the famous companions of the Prophet. He quotes the Prophet, where the Prophet says to his companions, لَتَتَّبِعُنَّ سُنَنَ مَنْ قَبْلَكُمْ شِبْرًا بِشِبْرٍ وَذِرَاعًا بِذِرَاعٍ. He says to his companions that surely you will follow in the footsteps of those who came before you. Shibran bishibr. As we can say, inch by inch. You're going to mimic the practices of previous communities. حَتَّى لَوْ سَلَكُوا جُحْرَ ضَبٍّ لَسَلَكْتُمُوهُ. Meaning that you are going to follow in the footsteps of those who came before you. قِيلَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ الْيَهُودُ وَالنَّصَارَى. Ya Rasulullah, do you mean that we as Muslims, as your community, that we will follow in the footsteps of the Jews and the Christians? We're going to follow in the footsteps of those faith communities before us? The Prophet says, فَمَنْ. Who else would I be speaking about? Indeed, you will follow their practices. So not only does the Quran command us to reflect on the past, not only does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to denounce the crimes of the past because it will inspire us to condemn the crimes of the present, the Prophet himself tells us that the Muslims are going to go down a very dangerous path after my death. So the Prophet foreshadows the disturbing events that would transpire after his demise, after his death. And therefore, if we want to anticipate what will happen after the death of the Prophet, we have to reflect on what happened to faith communities after the deaths of their Prophet. Because the Prophet is prophesying that you will follow in their footsteps. If you look at, for example, Surah Al-Buruj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions the plight of religious people in the past. قُتِلَ أَصْحَابُ الْأُخْدُودِ. Ashab al-Ukhdud, they were a group of pious Christians, according to some mufassirin, who lived between the time of Isa and the final messenger. And they were being persecuted because they were monotheists. They were believers in the one true God. They were followers of the message of Isa. قُتِلَ أَصْحَابُ الْأُخْدُودِ النَّارِ ذَاتِ الْوَقُودِ. They were persecuted. Their oppressors dug trenches and they were thrown into the trenches and they were burned alive. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions their oppression. Allah doesn't want us to forget the plight of these people. قُتِلَ أَصْحَابُ الْأُخْدُودِ النَّارِ ذَاتِ الْوَقُودِ إِذْ هُمْ عَلَيْهَا قُعُودٌ وَهُمْ عَلَى مَا يَفْعَلُونَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ شُهُودٌ وَمَا نَقَمُوا مِنْهُمْ إِلَّا أَن يُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ. Their only crime was what? Their only crime was that they believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you find that the Quran preserves the memory of those who were oppressed in the way of God. And the Prophet ﷺ, he never censored the history of the Jews in Medina. We have to have difficult conversations. The Prophet ﷺ could have just censored that aspect of their history. But as I've mentioned, if we are going to move forward, if we're going to navigate the future, we have to reflect, we have to come into terms with our past. Now, what I'd like to do tonight, my dear brothers and sisters, in the brief time that I have, I'd like to address some of the misconceptions around the Shahada of Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam. When you have conversations with members of our community, and especially members of different sects within Islam, the question that often arises is that how is it possible that the Muslims attack the daughter of their prophet. For some, no matter how much evidence you bring, there is a mental block. For them, it is a logical impossibility to even insinuate that the companions of the Prophet would attack the house of the daughter of the Prophet. If you look at some of the ahadith, you're talking about the same companions who, when the Prophet used to make wudu, they would fight to collect the droplets of water from his wudu. So the argument is that these same Sahaba who prayed with the Prophet, who went to war alongside the Prophet, who spent many years with the Prophet during those difficult years, you want me to believe that they turned their backs on the messenger that they loved and they attacked his beloved daughter? How is this possible? So this is one objection that prevents people from even entertaining the idea that such an attack could take place. This is number one. Number two, they say that if we accept that such an attack took place, this is an insult to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Because how could you insinuate that Fatima alayhi salam is attacked and Ali ibn Abi Talib is just sitting? Isn't this the warrior of Islam? Isn't this the conqueror of Khaybar? Isn't this the hero of all of the battles of Islam? That to say that Fatima alayhi salam was attacked is to imply that Ali ibn Abi Talib did not rise to defend his wife. Any ordinary mu'min, if you insult his wife, if you attack his wife, a pious man, a man of honor, is going to intervene. So how is it that you Shi'as believe that Fatima was attacked and Ali just stood back idly and did nothing? Now, just like with all crimes, for us to accept the plausibility of a crime, we have to bring together all of the contextual elements. You see, when a crime is mentioned and it is decontextualized, it becomes very hard to believe. So for example, if someone says to you that there was a stabbing inside of Masjid-e-Ali, God forbid, if you first hear this news, it's going to sound like a fake story. What do you mean there was a stabbing in the masjid? If that's all the information that you have, it's difficult to believe. However, if you are told that the perpetrator of the crime was so-and-so, and they have a history of mental health issues, they have a criminal background, it becomes a little bit more believable. You might wonder, okay, how did the stabbing happen when there are so many mu'mineen? But then later on you might find out, well, it happened in the early morning when there was no one around. Oh, but where was the security guard? And let's say that you find out that on that day, the security guard was not on the grounds of the masjid. You see, when you add all of these contextual clues, the story then becomes what? It becomes more believable. Now, when it comes to the attack on the house of Sayyidah Fatima, the first objection is, how is this even possible? How is it possible that the beloved daughter of the Prophet is exposed to such an attack, an ambush? And by the way, when you look at the reports about the attack on the house of Fatima, the reports reach about 340. Across Sunni and Shia literature, there are about 340 reports that give various details about this incident. So we're not talking about one or two narrations. And the problem is, whenever we have conversations about historical events, the first question that people often ask is, give me a sahih hadith. Give me an authentic report. My dear brothers and sisters, history does not work like that. when we want to reconstruct history, we collect contextual clues. We're doing investigative report. If history was only built on authentic narrations, single authentic narrations, we would have no history. Now, when you take this question, how is it possible that the house of Fatima alayhi salam is attacked, that she would be subject to a vicious attack? We have to remember, brothers and sisters, that what happened earlier was even more egregious. If you say, how is it possible that there are those who wanted to harm Fatima? I say that if you look at the seerah of the Prophet, there were some who were around the Prophet who tried to assassinate the Prophet. So if Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa is not immune from an assassination, what makes you think that Fatima alayhi salam would be immune? If you look, for example, at the Battle of Tabuk, the Battle of Tabuk was a battle in which the Prophet organized the largest army. About 30,000 fighters were mobilized to go and travel to the Roman border, because the Prophet had received intelligence that maybe the Romans would invade Arabia. So the Prophet, he leaves. What makes this battle unique is that this is the only battle in which Ali ibn Abi Talib is not present. Usually, Ali ibn Abi Talib is present and he is the standard bearer. He's on the front lines. Why is it that with Tabuk, Rasulullah does not take Ali with him? What you see is that in the days leading up to the Prophet's departure for Tabuk, Rasulullah notices that many munafiqeen, many of the hypocrites, start making excuses about why they are not able to join. So the Prophet recognizes that there are a group of hypocrites that are staying behind. Now, in order to prevent a mutiny from forming in his absence, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa what does he do? He leaves the only person with the intelligence to deal with munafiqeen, and that is Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi alayhi. So those well-known munafiqeen, they remain in Medina, hoping that Rasulullah, Ali, the other noble companions would leave. There would be a power vacuum and they would form a revolt, a rebellion. The Prophet, he leaves Ali ibn Abi Talib. And this frustrated the plans of the munafiqeen. Now you might say that, but this is not the first time that the Prophet left someone in charge during his absence. For example, when the Prophet went for Hajj, he also left one of his companions to administer the affairs of Medina. The Prophet had this habit of appointing administrators and representatives during his absence. But there is a big difference. When the Prophet left those others, he left them and he did not make a comment. With Ali, he leaves him and he says, أَنْتَ مِنِّي بِمَنْزِلَةِ هَارُونَ مِنْ مُوسَى. So this is not an ordinary appointment. That you are to me as Aaron was to Musa. Because Harun is not just one of the ashab of Musa. Harun, according to the Quran, is the sharik of Musa. وَأَشْرِكْهُ فِي أَمْرِي. Harun is a partner in the mission of Musa. So the Prophet goes for Tabuk. There's no battle that takes place. The Prophet is now returning from Tabuk. What happens? The Prophet is now traveling through a mountain pass. Waqidi, one of the historians who died in 207 after the Hijrah, he says that the Prophet was riding on his camel, and because his army was so massive, he told his men, he told the Muslims to travel through the valley, and he's going to travel over the mountain. This is the incident of the Aqaba, the mountain pass. So the Prophet is riding on his camel. His camel is being led by Hudhayfa and Ammar ibn Yasir. The narrations say suddenly 12 men appeared who were from among the 30,000 companions. 12 appeared with their faces covered. Waqidi, he says, 7 of them were from Bani Umayyah, 5 of them were from Quraysh, meaning that they were from among the Muhajirin. Their faces were covered, and they ambushed the Prophet. The Prophet was traveling on this mountain, and they wanted to startle the camel of the Prophet so that it would fall off of the cliff, and the Prophet would also die in that fall. Now, when you mention this, these 12, and there are other narrations that mention a different number, who are these individuals? Did they come from outer space? Where did they come from? They are from among the ashab. Now you might say, but Sheikh, these are among the well-known munafiqeen. The answer is no. Because the well-known munafiqeen stayed in Medina. These were not the well-known munafiqeen. These were the hypocrites who were not well-known. So you find, number one, someone who objects to the notion, to the idea that Fatima would be attacked, we say that something worse happened than that. There are those who are masquerading as devotees of the Prophet who made an attempt on the Prophet's life. If there are those who have the audacity to attempt to assassinate the Prophet, then obviously killing Fatimah al-Zahra is going to be it's not going to be more difficult than killing the Prophet. This is number one. Number two, we should all be familiar with the name of Sa'd ibn Ubadah. Sa'd ibn Ubadah was there during Saqifat Bani Sa'ida. Before the arrival of Abu Bakr and Umar, he was there as the chief of Khazraj, one of the prominent tribes in Yathrib. And he was basically the leader of the Ansar. He wanted to nominate himself as the Khalifa of the Prophet. This is where Abu Bakr and Umar, when they hear that the Ansar are going to elect their own Khalifa, this is where they crash the meeting. We know what happened in Saqifa. Umar ibn al-Khattab tells Abu Bakr, stretch your hand, I'll give bay'ah to you. Sa'd ibn Ubadah, a companion of the Prophet, was among those who refused to give bay'ah to Abu Bakr. He refused. What happens is that 5 years after the death of the Prophet, during the Khilafah of Umar ibn al-Khattab, Sa'd ibn Ubadah is mysteriously killed. Up until that day, he refused to give bay'ah to Abu Bakr, refused to give bay'ah to Umar. He was killed. And if you look at the cause of his death, you'll laugh, because some insinuated that the jinn killed Sa'd ibn Ubadah. The jinn. Now, as we know, it's not the jinn. He was a political opponent of the early khulafa. A prominent companion of the Prophet was killed. So if the Prophet's life, there was an assassination attempt on the Prophet in Tabuk. If Sa'd ibn Ubadah, a political opponent of the early caliphs, if he is killed, then why is it surprising that Fatimah Zahra salawatullahi alayha could? We're just speaking about plausibility. We're not going to go into details about whether it happened or not. Just the fact that it is possible for such a thing to take place. Now, when we speak about crimes, when someone commits a crime or when someone is accused of a crime, the first thing that law enforcement does is that they look at that person's criminal background. Because if someone, for example, is accused of theft, law enforcement is going to do what? Has this person committed theft in the past? If they have, it's more plausible that they committed the crime again. Now, when you look at Umar ibn al-Khattab, and again, we're bringing this up not to create sectarian tension, but for our brothers and sisters to understand the Shi'i narrative, to understand why Shi'as believe what they believe. Now, when you take the case of Umar ibn al-Khattab, the narrations place him as one of those who participated in that ambush. Now, the accusation is what? The accusation is that he was among those who attacked the house of Sayyidah Fatimah, which is a very big accusation. Now, if we pretend that this incident was reported, law enforcement is going to do what? They show up. Let's imagine law enforcement shows up, that this crime is reported. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the background of this individual to see if he has a history of similar crimes. The accusation is that this person attacked the daughter of the Prophet. Okay, we look up the past of this individual. If you look at the conversion story, I'll just mention two incidents. If you look at the conversion story of Umar ibn al-Khattab, it's mentioned in many sources. In the 5th year after the Bi'tha, the Prophet ﷺ sent a number of his companions to Abyssinia because Mecca was no longer safe for them. In the 5th or the 6th year after the Bi'tha, Umar ibn al-Khattab had still not converted. And he was enraged about what was happening in Meccan society. So one day, he decides that he wants to go kill the Prophet. So he draws his sword. Very angrily, he walks into the street and he's asking about the whereabouts of Muhammad. Where is Muhammad? He wants to kill the Prophet. He wants to put an end to this religious movement that has broken up families and has created a lot of trouble in Mecca. As he is going to kill the Prophet, someone stops him in the street. They say, Umar, what's wrong? You've drawn your sword. You look angry. Where are you going? What do you want to do? He says that I want to put an end to this. I want to kill Muhammad ibn Abdullah. So the man says to him that you have to sort out your own house before you go and kill Muhammad. What do you mean? Oh, Umar, you don't know? Your sister and your brother-in-law have embraced Islam. So before you go and attack and rebuke Muhammad, go talk to your own sister. Go speak to your brother-in-law. So this is where he goes to the house of his sister and he finds her and her husband reciting the Quran. He enters and he brutally beats his sister to the point where she's covered in blood. The story continues. He ends up reading some of the ayat of the Quran. He embraces Islam. Now the point that I'm trying to make is that this is someone, if you look at their past, was able to attack his own flesh and blood, his sister. Now the objection is what? Sheikh, this was before Islam. وَالْإِسْلَامِ يَجُبُّ مَا قَبْلَهُ. When you convert to Islam, all of your past sins are washed away. This was before Islam. Surely he changed. When a person converts to Islam, we don't hold their past against them. If this was the only incident, I would agree with you. If you fast forward about 15 years after the death of Abu Bakr. When Abu Bakr dies, about 2 years after the Prophet, Aisha, she holds a gathering in her home to mourn and lament the death of her father. There were women who attended that gathering. Among those who attended that gathering was the sister of Abu Bakr, Farwa. Farwa was the sister of Abu Bakr. This is mentioned in Tabari. Ibn Sa'ad mentions this in his Tabaqat. Umar ibn al-Khattab is now the Khalifa. When news reaches him that women have gathered and they are crying and mourning the death of Abu Bakr, he goes and he demands that the gathering is ended. And the narrations say that he physically disciplined the women at that gathering. And he took a dirra, which is a stick or a whip, and he physically assaulted the sister of Abu Bakr. This is not mentioned in Al-Kafi or Bihar al-Anwar. This is mentioned in the books of prominent Sunni historians. Now here we ask a very, very important question. Farwa, the sister of Abu Bakr, she was mourning the death of her brother. Did she commit a sin? She didn't commit a sin. Umar felt that it was unacceptable. Did she commit a crime? She didn't commit a crime. Did she challenge the Khilafah of Umar? She did not challenge the Khilafah of Umar. Was she leading a political opposition against Umar? She was not. And yet, she was physically assaulted because she did something that Umar felt was unacceptable. Now the question is, what would happen to a woman who refuses to recognize the legitimacy of your government? What would happen to a woman who represents political opposition? If this is what would happen to the sister of Abu Bakr, what would happen to any person? Because we saw what happened with Sa'ad ibn Ubadah, a man, the chief of Khazraj, killed. What would happen to a woman who stands in the way of your political agenda? You see, all that I've done is just demonstrate the plausibility of such a thing happening. Whether it happened or not, I leave it to you. But sometimes people are unwilling to even entertain the possibility because they have not considered all of the elements of the story. The final thing that I want to comment on is, let us assume the worst. Let us assume that the house of Fatima was attacked. Let us assume that she was physically assaulted, which is the Shi'i narrative, the dominant Shi'i narrative. Where was Ali ibn Abi Talib? Where was the Lion of God? Where was Amir al-Mu'mineen? Why did he not do anything? Because this is often what is cited as an argument. If this actually happened, why didn't Ali do anything? My response is, who said Ali didn't do anything? Who said Amir al-Mu'mineen just stood by doing nothing? I'll mention to you what we find in the book of Sulaym ibn Qais al-Hilali. When Fatima alayhi salam was attacked, she cried out for help. You have to understand that the attack happened very quickly. It was just a matter of seconds. And, as a side note, I want to state this parenthetically. For those who say, why didn't Ali intervene? We have to go back to the early history of Islam. Ammar ibn Yasir, his mother, was tortured. Rasulullah, where was he? He was there. So the one who says, why didn't Ali intervene when Fatima was attacked? I would respond, why did Rasulullah intervene when Sumayyah was attacked? There's a reason. Someone will say, oh, because the Prophet was a minority. He didn't have manpower. We say the same thing about Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sulaym ibn Qais, what does he say in his book? When Fatima cried out for help, when she was attacked, فَوَثَبَ عَلِيٌّ فَأَخَذَ بِتَلَابِيبِهِ. When Fatima was attacked and she cried out for help, Ali ibn Abi Talib rose up and he grabbed the attacker by his shirt. ثُمَّ نَتَرَهُ فَصَرَعَهُ. Ali grabbed him by the shirt and he wrestled him to the ground. وَوَجَّأَ أَنْفَهُ وَرَقَبَتَهُ. Ali stepped on his nose and his neck. وَهَمَّ بِقَتْلِهِ. And Ali came this close to killing him. So the more accurate question is not, where was Ali? Ali responded. Ali intervened. The real question is, what prevented Ali from killing him? What prevented Ali from killing him? And the Imam, he mentions, فَذَكَرَ قَوْلَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وآله. When Ali threw him down and he was about to kill him, he remembered the words of the Prophet. So we shouldn't, some of us, we leave out this detail. Yes, when you present the story as Fatima is attacked and Ali is sitting back saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, it doesn't sound like a believable story. But when you say Ali responded, threw him to the ground, stepped on his nose, stepped on his neck, was this close to killing him? And then he remembered the words of the Prophet, and he remembered the wasiyah of the Prophet, and he said to the attacker, وَالَّذِي كَرَّمَ مُحَمَّدًا بِالنُّبُوَّةِ. I swear by the one who honored Muhammad with prophethood. يَبْنَ الصُّهَاكِ لَوْلَا كِتَابٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ سَبَقَ وعهد عهده إلى رسول الله لعلمت أنك لا تدخل بيتي. If it wasn't for the instruction and the covenant that I have with the Prophet, you would know that you would not be able to enter my house. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he did intervene, but he didn't shed blood. Because the Prophet told him that if you shed blood, if you fight, these people, they will go back to Jahiliyyah. They will abandon Islam. You have to look after Islam. Islam is still in its infancy. And this is why in the ziyarah, what do we say when we address Amir al-Mu'mineen? فَأَشْبَأَتْ مِحْنَتُكَ بِهِمَا مِحَنَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. O Ali, your struggles resemble the struggles of the past prophets. What was the problem? What was the struggle of past prophets? They never had enough supporters. When Musa alayhi salam comes back to his community and he sees them worshipping idols, he turns to Harun, because you're the leader. He asks him for an explanation. What happened? They're now bowing in front of an idol. What does Harun say? He says, Yabna and this is mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf, Surah 7, Ayah 150. فَقَالَ يَبْنَ إِنَّ الْقَوْمَ اسْتَضْعَفُونِي. O my brother, O son of my mother, the people, your people, they deemed me weak. I didn't have supporters. وَكَادُوا يَقْتُلُونَنِي. And they tried to kill me. There's a reason why the Prophet says, أَنْتَ مِنِّي بِمَنْزِلَةِ هَارُونَ مِنْ مُوسَى. What was the struggle of Harun? He was upon the truth, but he was outnumbered. He didn't have enough supporters. And this is why the Shahada of Sayyidah Fatima is so unique. It's because she supported the Imam of her time. You have to understand that her defense of Ali was not the defense of a wife for her husband. She was defending God's representative, who happened to be her husband. She came to the door not because she wanted to open the door. She wanted to make her presence known so that perhaps it would be a deterrent and it would prevent them from attacking. But it didn't. Because those who attacked, they had a history of attacking women. They had a history of crushing political opposition. And this is where the narrations tell us that Sulaym ibn Qais al-Hilali, who was one of the tabi'een, he wasn't an eyewitness to the ambush, but do you know who was a witness? Salman al-Farisi. So Sulaym, the poet, there's a beautiful poem that captures the ambush. قال سليمان قلت يا سلمان. Sulaym, he asks Salman. He wants the details of what happened. قال سليمان قلت يا سلمان هل دخلوا ولم يك استئذان. Is it true, O Salman, that they entered without permission? They entered that sacred space without permission? قال سليم قلت يا سلمان هل دخلوا ولم يك استئذان. What's the answer? Did they enter without permission? قال إي وعزة الجبار. Yes, they did. They forcibly entered. وما على الزهراء من خمار. They entered. But not only did they enter while Fatima was not wearing her hijab. وما على الزهراء من خمار فمذ رأوها عصروها عصرا. When they entered, فلاذت وراء الباب رعاية للستر والحجاب. When they entered the house, when they ambushed, Fatima alayhi salam was not wearing her hijab. So what did she do? The first thing that comes to her mind is the preservation of her modesty. She doesn't have anything to put on her head, so she hides between the wall and the door. Why was she between the wall and the door? رعاية للستر والحجاب. فمذ رأوها. When they sensed that she was between the wall and the door, when they could feel that there was a body there, فعصروها عصرا. They squeezed her between the wall and the door. كادت بنفسي أن تموت حسرا. Salman says, when we heard the cry of Fatima, we felt that our own souls were going to depart our body. فعصروها عصرا كادت بنفسي أن تموت عسرا. تصيح أيا فضة أسنديني. She cries out for Fidda. Oh Fidda, come to me. فقد أسقطوا جنيني. Because they've caused me to miscarry my infant. فأسقطت بنت الهدى وحزنا. ذاك الجنين هذاك المسمى محسنا لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to accept these tears that we shed for Sayyidat al-Nisa. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us our sins, to grant us our hajat. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant a speedy recovery to all of those who are ill. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease our affairs, to aid our brothers and sisters in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Pakistan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give victory to Islam over our enemies. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to never deprive us of the ziyarah of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us the greatest gift, which is the shafa'ah of Fatimiyah al-Zahra on the Day of Judgment. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
سیدہ طاہرہ 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 ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا. ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا. ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا. ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا.
پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں ایسے دروازہ گرا ایسے دروازہ گرا میرا محسن نہ رہا ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں ایسا دروازہ گرا ایسا دروازہ گرا میرا محسن نہ رہا ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا درا نے کہا نہ رہا ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا نے کہا میرا محسن پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں ایسا دروازہ گرا ایسا دروازہ گرا میرا محسن نہ رہا پہلو پہ رکھا کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ پسلیاں ٹوٹنے کا غم ہی نہیں ہے مجھ کو قتل پہلو میں ہوئی آج یہ اولاد میری جیتے ہی مار گیا مجھ کو بس یہ صدمہ مجھ کو یہ بس صدمہ میرا محسن نہ رہا ہاتھ پہلو پہ اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن دیکھا دروازے کے نیچے جو مجھے روتے ہوئے پاؤں دروازے پہ رکھ رکھ کے ستمگر گزرے اتنی تکلیف میں بھی میں نے بس دی یہ صدا میں نے بس دی یہ صدا میرا محسن نہ رہا ہاتھ اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں ایسا دروازہ گرا ایسا دروازہ گرا میرا محسن نہ رہا ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا در سے جو پہلے سے وہ فضا نے ہٹایا کر بولی زہرا میرے بچوں کو سنبھالو جا کر اٹھنا مشکل ہے بہت ظلم یہ کیسا ہوا ظلم یہ کیسا ہوا میرا محسن نہ رہا ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا نے کہا اور محسن نہ رہا، ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا کہا جب رسن باندھ کے گردن سے علی کو کھینچا، آئے ظالم سے بچانے کے لیے جب زہرا، تازیانہ بھی سہا پر علی سے نہ کہا، پر علی سے نہ کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا، ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا، ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا، ہاتھ پہلو اور یہ زہرا نے کہا بعد بابا کے مدینہ یوں بدل جائے گا، راہ میں کوئی تماچا بھی مجھے مارے گا، میرے بابا کا مجھے ایسے پرسا ہے ملا، ایسے پرسا ہے ملا میرا محسن نہ رہا، ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا، ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا میرا محسن نہ رہا، پسلیاں ٹوٹ گئیں ایسے دروازہ گرا، ایسے دروازہ گرا میرا محسن نہ رہا، ہاتھ پہلو پہ رکھا اور یہ زہرا نے کہا محسن نہ رہا، ہاتھ پہلو نے کہا سند کے ٹکڑے ہوا میں اڑا کے ہنسنے لگا، رسول زادی سے گستاخ ایسے کہنے لگا، بتاؤ کون سی، بتاؤ کون سی جاگیر ہے تیری، زہرا بھر دربار میں روتی رہی کھڑی، زہرا بھر دربار میں روتی رہی کھڑی، زہرا بھر دربار میں زہرا بھر دربار میں روتی رہی کھڑی، زہرا بھر دربار میں روتی رہی کھڑی، زہرا بھر دربار نہ جانے کس طرح، نہ جانے کس طرح حق مانگتی رہی، زہرا بھر دربار میں روتی رہی کھڑی، زہرا بھر دربار حسن حسین سے سچے گواہ بھی جھٹلائے، رلا کے بی بی کو ظالم ذرا نہ شرمائے، بھلا نہ پائے گی، بھلا نہ پائے گی امت کی بے رخی، زہرا بھر بار میں روتی رہی کھڑی، زہرا بھر دربار میں کھڑی زہرا بر دربار میں، روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بر دربار، نہ جانے کس طرح، نہ جانے کس طرح حق مانگتی رہی زہرا بر دربار میں، روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بر دربار۔ یہ اس کی بیٹی ہے جس نے دو لخت چاند کیا، وہ جس کے نور نے ہر روشنی کو ماند کیا، اسے ستاؤ نا، اسے ستاؤ نا، دکھیاری ہے بڑی زہرا بر دربار، روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بر دربار میں، روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بر دربار میں، روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بر دربار، نہ جانے کس طرح، نہ جانے کس طرح حق مانگتی رہی زہرا بر دربار میں، روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بر دربار، سند کے ٹکڑے ہوا میں اڑا کے ہنسنے لگا، رسول زادی سے گستاخ ایسے کہنے لگا، بتاؤ کون سی، بتاؤ کون سی جاگیر ہے تیری زہرا بر دربار میں، روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بر دربار میں، روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بر دربار میں، روتی رہی کھڑی زہرا بر دربار میں، یا حسین
میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، 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 میں بہت روئی، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، ہاتھوں سے جگر تھام کے کہتی تھی یہ زہرا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، میں بہت روئی، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، بعد آپ کے امت نے ستم مجھ پہ جو ڈھایا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، 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 کیا کیا میں بتاؤں تمہیں جو گزری ہے مجھ پر، جس وقت جلانے ادو آئے تھے میرا گھر، بچوں کے سوا کوئی بھی ہمدرد نہیں تھا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، 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 جاگیر میری چھین لی غم اس کا نہیں تھا، جھٹلائی گواہی میری تھا دل کو یہ صدمہ، میں جھوٹ نہیں بولتی کہہ کر یہی جملہ، میں بہت روئی ہوں میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، میں بہت روئی، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، 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 کس طرح بتاؤں تمہیں کیا سخت گھڑی تھی، بیٹھے تھے ستمگر سبھی اور زہرا کھڑی تھی، ایک دل میں ضعیفہ ہوئی یہ زخم تھا ایسا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، 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 غم اس سے بڑا کوئی بھی دنیا میں نہیں ہے، پہلو ہے شکستہ میرا اور زخمی جبھی ہے، جب مجھ پہ وہ جلتا ہوا دروازہ گرایا، میں بہت میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، لکھی جو سند آپ نے کر ڈالی وہ ٹکڑے، یہ دیکھ کے رونے لگے دربار میں بچے، حسنین نے تحریر کے ٹکڑوں کو سمیٹا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، میں بہت، کیا جرم تھا جس کی سزا امت نے یہ دی ہے، کچھ آپ ہی بتلائیے تقصیر کوئی ہے، یہ سوچ کے راتوں کو میں کرتی رہی گریا، میں بہت روئی، میں بہت روئی ہوں بابا، میں بہت روئی، مظہر کا قلم رو دیا لوگوں یہی کہہ کر، مرقد میں نبی رو دیے جب بولی وہ دختر، تا مرگ علی سے بھی ہر ایک زخم چھپایا، میں بہت میں بہت روئی ہوں، کیا حال یہ امت نے زہرا کا بنایا ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے۔ کیا حال یہ امت نے زہرا کا بنایا ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے۔ خاتون کوئی غم سے یوں چورے نہیں دیکھی، ایسی کوئی دنیا میں مستوری نہیں دیکھی، 18 برس میں ہی لگتی جو ضعیفہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے۔ درباری میں ظالم نے کی ایسی پذیرائی، کس طرح سے تو بی پھر لوٹی کے گھر آئی، بالوں کی سفیدی نے سب حال سنایا ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے۔ تو روتی رہی گھر میں حیدر سے بھی چھپ چھپ کے، عصمت کی طرح دکھ بھی پردے میں رہے تیرے، کچھ درد تیرے بھی بس جانتی فضا ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے۔ دو ایسے جنازے ہیں تاریکی میں جو اٹھے، بس گھر کے ہی لوگوں نے دونوں کو دیے کاندھے، ایک فاطمہ زہرا ہے، ایک بالی سکینہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے، تربت بھی شکستہ
مہدی سے کوئی پوچھے کیا اس پہ گزرتی ہے، آواز بقیہ سے رونے کی جو آتی ہے، آنکھوں سے لہو رو کر وہی یہی کہتا ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے تربت بھی شکستہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے تربت بھی شکستہ ہے۔ خاتون کوئی غم سے یوں چور نہیں دیکھی، ایسی کوئی دنیا میں مستور نہیں دیکھی، 18 برس میں ہی لگتی جو ضعیفہ ہے، پہلو بھی شکستہ ہے کیا حال یہ امت نے زہرا کا بنایا ہے،
زيارة. السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا علي بن أبي طالب يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا أبا محمد الحسن بن علي المجتبى، السلام عليك يا حسين بن علي الشهيد بكربلاء، السلام عليك يا أئمة المسلمين يا علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي وحجة بن الحسن يا صاحب الزمان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.